Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another video review. This time we've got the Kobo Libra 2 versus the Kindle Paperwhite 5. Amazon just released this Paperwhite 5 with a 6.8-inch e-ink screen, and Kobo just released the Kobo Libra 2 with a 7-inch e-ink screen. So very similar devices, very comparable. The Libra sells for $179, the Paperwhite sells for $139 for the 8GB version, and $189 for the Signature Edition, which comes with 32GB. So the Libra 2 has 32GB itself, and we got a very different design here with the page buttons on the Libra, and then the flush front screen on the Kindle. So you got kind of a flare on the edge there, and then the back has some texture on it. It kind of has more of a budget feel with the plastic. The Paperwhite has a soft rubbery coating on the back. Both do feel comfortable in your hand. They're not going to slip out. So the Paperwhite's a bit thinner. I think it's about 8 millimeters. The Kobo is about 9 millimeters on this thicker edge here. As you can see, there's a taper to it, and it gets thicker towards the handle side where you have the page buttons. The Kobo has a rotation sensor, so it'll automatically rotate the screen. When you flip hands, it'll also go to landscape mode, and the buttons have a good tactile feel for going back and forth. You can program either one to go forward or back. They have an option for in settings. Obviously, no buttons on the Kindle Paperwhite. I kind of tend to hold it from the bottom more, and you can just tap the screen to turn pages. So a different approach than the Kobo with the page buttons. It's more like the Kindle Oasis. So far right here, I've had the front lights turned off. We'll turn those on now and talk about the front lights a little more. So both have really good front lights in my opinion. You got the cool color and you also have the warm color, so you can kind of blend the two if you want. The screen looks really good on both of these. I can't tell you which screen looks better. We'll talk about that more later. They're very comparable in some lighting conditions. The Kobo screen looks better in some lighting conditions. This Kindle screen looks better, but as far as the front lights go, they're very comparable. I mean, the color is very similar with the warm front light here. They also both have like a similar option to like have the front light turn on at a certain time. You can set a time for it to turn on. You got the same sort of deal with the Kindle. You can set a manual time for it to turn on or an automatic time and set your warm light settings to have it turn on automatically. The one cool thing with the Kobo is you can adjust the front light brightness by swiping up and down the screen. Much easier than having to go into the menu and mess with that every time. So I do like that. I wish Kindle had that. So here's kind of a look at like blending of the two front lights. We'll talk about a couple of different lighting scenarios here. So one thing with the Paperwhite Signature Edition, it has the auto brightness setting, so you can have it automatically adjust the brightness level based on the current lighting conditions. The lower cost model doesn't have that. That's only on the Signature Edition. So here's kind of a look at a more natural lighting setting without the overhead lights on. The front lights are very even. I do really like both of these. The Kindle's front light seems a little bit more neutral when you're using the cool tone. The Kobo's light seems to have like a little bit of a slight greenish tinge or slight bluish tinge to it. Here's kind of a close-up look with the lights turned off on both. The background color is a little bit lighter on the Kindle with the lights turned off, but I'd say the text kind of stands out more on the Kobo Libra, but I don't know. I can't really tell you which one screens look better because in some lighting conditions, the Kobo's looks better. Some lighting conditions, the Kindle's looks better. It just kind of depends on the lighting conditions. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the software a bit now. So this is the home screen on both of these. The Kindle has this like scrolling home screen with these recommended titles down here that I never really pay attention to. Kobo has some different things at the bottom. They'll have like these recommendations at the bottom once in a while telling you about different things, but they don't have those recommended titles like the Kindle does. You got kind of like a similar layout to the home screen. I mean, Kindle does have list view. They're going to be changing this though. They had this thing on their website about how they're going to be changing this, and they showed a list view with covers, and they showed a different home screen with like a scroll bar in the library view. So this probably isn't going to last a whole lot longer on the Kindle's home screen. It's supposed to be getting an updated look here soon, but you know, you get kind of a similar option with like sorting options. The Kobo does have some more like tabs here for authors and series. You also have the option to create collections on both of these. So, I mean, you got kind of a lot of same kind of deal. Like the Kobo, it does have the scroll bar right here. So I think Amazon's going to be adding that to the Kindle here. They have a screenshot on their website about that. So if anything, they're kind of changing the interface on the Kindle to be more Kobo-like, which is kind of interesting. They also changed some other things recently that is kind of similar to Kobo's. So they got the new UI that they recently rolled out here. So Kobo does have overdrive support built in, so you can get library books directly from their store, which is nice. So Kindles have library book support too, but you have to use a secondary device and have them sent to your Kindle via Amazon. And I think that's only US only, where Kobo has some more countries involved. Kobo has some additional settings in there for the beta features. You do have large print mode. In the Kindle, you got like Goodreads. Both of them have a pretty crappy web browser, but I mean, it can be useful for downloading books now and then. Okay, let's load up the same kind of ebook here. I wanted to try to match the font and the layout as much as possible, but it's not quite, perfect. You can't get the exact same settings on both of these. I did use a side-loaded font so we could try to get a neutral look here, because they have different fonts preloaded. As far as speed goes, the Kindle is generally a bit faster. I mean, the Kobo is no slouch, but when you're turning pages and you jumping around the different parts of the book with the table of contents, it's just a little bit zippier on the Kindle. So here's the font menu. So like I got the side-loaded font like I was saying here. So there are some differences. Like with Kindle's side-loaded fonts, you can add boldness to them. Where Kobo's, they don't have the boldness option with side-loaded fonts, but you do have that option with Kobo's pre-installed fonts. One of the advantages with Kobo is you do have a lot more options when it comes to layout. You have more fine control over the margins and the settings. And again, like I said here, when you're using the built-in fonts, you have the option to control the weight and make the text a bit bolder. Kobo also offers more font sizes to choose from, where the Kindle you're a little bit more limited in that regard. And the Kindle also has less layout choices. So you have they have the same 3 layout and margin spacings that they've always had. You do have the option to change the alignment and the orientation, so you can switch it to landscape mode manually. It doesn't have that sensor like the Kobo does. Again, the Kobo has a lot more line spacing. You can fine tune it a bit more as far as the layout goes. One new thing Amazon added to the Paperwhite 5 is this page transition here, so you can have a sort of an animated effect that goes across the screen when turning pages. So as far as looking up the dictionary, it's about same speed that way. They both have different options for the dictionary. The Kindle has these different panes you can swipe over for a Wikipedia definition and for a translation. Kobo has some translation dictionaries as well, and you can open up Wikipedia in the web browser. You can do the same in the Kindle as well. So very similar features between these two devices. As the years go on, they get more and more alike. Kobo does have this interesting estimated reading thing up here that gives you a visual representation of the chapters and tells you how much time's left in books. Kindles have some different features, like you can disable the touchscreen to avoid accidental presses. Kobo has some additional features in the settings menu. You can control the page refresh, how many pages. Kindle, you can just turn it on or off. Kindles also have this added thing with X-ray. It kind of gives you different information about the book, like some characters and terms in the book, a little bit of an add-on. Kobo doesn't have anything comparable to that. So like I was saying here in the settings menu, you have some different things with the Kobo. You can turn headers and footers off, for instance, and have different information on there. You can set it to recognize tapping and swiping or just swiping. You can turn on dark mode, something I forgot to show in this video for some reason, but you can see dark mode in both the video reviews for these devices individually. So the Kindle has kind of an estimated page timer down here as well. You tap in the corner, it'll tell you how much time you got left in the chapter and in the book. All right, so let's switch into a different direction a bit here and load up the same manga on both of these devices. As far as performance goes, the Kindle is a bit zippier when it comes to content like this. As far as turning pages and just page zooming, it's a little bit more jittery on the Kobo device here. I think the Kobo Sage would probably be a bit better performance-wise because it's got a quad-core CPU. But I mean, it's definitely usable. The Kindle just a little bit more responsive as far as the scrolling, but it does kind of do that loading thing once in a while. Kindle also has this fast page turn feature with this type of content where if you hold down, you can kind of scan through the pages really quick. You can hold down on the corner of the Kobo as well to scan through pages. It doesn't go as fast as the Kindle does. You can also, obviously, with the Kobo, use the page buttons to turn pages. And if you hold them down, it will just scan through the pages as well. Same with ebooks. If you hold down the page buttons, it'll just sort of scan through the pages that way. So with the Kobo's rotation sensor, you can just kind of rotate it over to landscape mode, no problem. The Kindle, you just have to go into the settings menu and manually change the rotation. You can't change it to the other way. Like with the Kobo, if you flipped it upside down, it would go the other way. The Kindle, it just gives you that one, option so that the larger section's to the left. Again, page turns just a little bit faster on the Kindle. I don't think it's a deal breaker either way. Overall performance just a little bit quicker on the Kindle, but the Kobo, it's not bad either. When we load up this PDF here, the Kindle does have, I just wanted to do a quick PDF comparison as far as speed goes on these two devices, just loading up a couple different pages, and the Kindle is a bit faster. It also has a couple of different things, like you can add notes, highlight sections. Kobo, it doesn't work with the highlights, though. It does work with dictionary. And then the Kindle also has this contrast feature where you can set the text to be a bit darker. So obviously, page turns a bit quicker on the Kindle. Again, same with sort of deal with the scrolling and the page zooming, just a little bit more responsive. Kobos have never really been known for being great with PDFs, though the larger ellipse, it does handle PDFs better, and so does the Kobo Sage with the quad-core CPU and the little bit larger screen. So Libra is definitely not your best option for PDFs, and really not the Kindle Paperwhite either. I mean, the screen's pretty small, but something like this, I mean, it is usable. Like I was saying earlier, you do have that contrast with the Kindle, so you can always make text a bit darker with PDFs. Well, so anyway, I mean, at the end of the day, I think both devices are very good at what they do. I really don't have a favorite. I like the design of the Kobo with the page buttons. I mean, I personally like page buttons. I like the Kindle too. I mean, it's just basically comes down to what platform you want to use, what design you like better. Both screens are very comparable. Front lights are very comparable. Features very comparable. I mean, it just kind of comes down, like I said, what platform you want to use, what design you like better. Not a huge difference between these two devices. Otherwise, both get the job done. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Check out the ebookreader.com for full reviews of both these devices. Bye.